Okay, so today we're going to go over this playbook. This is how do you build wealth with real estate? All right, so how do you build wealth with real estate? So if you want access to this information or more information, go to tianamyrealtor.com. I'm a realtor here in the DC, Maryland area, and my goal is to help people learn about how they can use real estate in order to get to the next stage in life. So I wanted to put together this quick step-by-step guide on building wealth through real estate. So I've taken all the years that I've learned. I've invested in properties. I've done Airbnb. I've done room rentals. I've bought properties. I've renovated properties. I've helped other people sell their homes. I've helped other people buy homes. I've helped them buy multifamily properties. And I've taken all of that, and I'm going to give you a really, really simple steps to building wealth in real estate. So this is my step-by-step guide. There are 6 simple steps that you need. First things first, you have to get verified, right? You need to get pre-approved, right? In order to do that, you need credit, income, and assets. Your credit score needs to be at least a 580. And so once you get that 580 credit score, you have done the first step. So congratulations on doing that. You need income. Your lender's going to look to see if you have at least 2 years of work experience on your W-2s. So they're going to look at your past tax returns for at least 2 years. And if you're self-employed, you're a 1099 contractor, they're going to look for at least 3 years of tax returns, okay? And you also need assets. What do your savings look like? Are you able to save enough for a down payment? Can you save enough for your closing costs? Can you save enough to have some sort of reserve? So these are just your savings that you're keeping, so that if for some reason you get the house and for some reason you lose your job, you at least have 3 months saved up, 3 months of living expenses saved up so that you can get yourself through this tough time. So 3 to 6 months of living expenses. So once you have your credit, you have your income, you have your assets, you're going to talk to a lender so that you can get pre-approved to purchase a house. So for a lot of people, this takes the longest, but once you have this, you're good to go. All right. What we tend to do is we use an FHA loan. So the FHA loan really is if you have not bought a property before, or if you don't have a FHA loan and or you want to live in the property, you want to use the FHA loan. The FHA loan allows you to buy a property with only 3.5% down. So if you're buying $100,000 home, that's $3,500 of that as your down payment. Right? So you have to put money down for the most part because they want to make sure you have skin in the game because the lender's giving you all this money. But the FHA loan, you only need a 580 credit score. Sometimes you can have a credit score as low as 500, but you have to put a higher down payment. So now you're looking at least a 10% down payment. All right. So on $100,000 house, 10% down payment is $10,000. So the higher your credit score is, the lower the down payment for the FHA loan. All right. So if you're using a conventional loan, then you can sometimes get better interest rates. And for most conventional loans, you need at least a 620 credit score. But let's say we're using a very modest credit score of 580. You've just reached the 580 and you're good to go. Okay, so that's great. We have that. So at least you've been pre-approved. You're going to tell your lender, hey, yeah, I definitely want to buy this property and thank you for pre-approving me. I want to at least have the options to do an FHA loan. But if my credit score is good, yeah, consider me for a conventional loan as well. The biggest play in real estate is being able to add value to your property. So that's why we tell people you want to find the ugliest house in the nicest neighborhood. What's the number one rule in real estate? The top 3 rules in real estate: location, location, location. Okay. So people are always going to want to be in a certain location. They want to be where certain amenities are. So you want to make sure that you find a property in a neighborhood that people will want to be in. That helps you when it comes to renting it out in the future. It helps you when it comes to selling your house. You want to do location, location, location. Find the ugliest house in the nicest neighborhood, and that way you can add value to the property. The great thing with finding the ugliest house is that a lot of times you can get it for a lot cheaper. You're going to choose whether you're going to do a single family home or a multi-family home. If you're doing a single family home, what you can do is you can live in one part of the home and you can rent out the other. So you can live upstairs and rent out the basement, or you can live in the basement and rent out upstairs, or maybe you can live in one room and then rent out the other bedrooms in order to supplement your income. In addition, you could choose to live in a multifamily home. So that's like a quadruplex, a triplex, a duplex. That way you live in one unit and you're renting out the other ones. You can also consider a mixed use property where maybe there's a retail space on the main floor and then an apartment upstairs. So you have that option, or maybe like you want to do a hair salon on one level or barbershop on one level, and then you can do the rest as residential where you're renting it out, but you can do that as well. When you find the ugliest house, it might need some work. So you can use the FHA 203K loan in order to renovate the house. So if you qualify for the FHA loan, you should qualify for the FHA 203K loan as well, because the FHA 203K loan is mainly looking at the house condition. And they're basically saying like, okay, if we give her this amount of money, or we give him or her this amount of money to renovate the house, then it should be worth this. Okay, yeah, let's see if we can give them this money so that they can do the renovation. The biggest play in building your wealth in real estate is being able to house hack. So you have to live somewhere. So you might as well live in a place and then rent out a portion of the place. You're supplementing your income. You're paying for a portion of your expenses. Maybe you're paying for all your living expenses by renting out rooms or renting out the other unit. You can rent it out on Airbnb, on Furnish Finder, on Peerspace. You can rent it out on VRBO. You can rent it out on Zillow, Realtor.com, Apartments.com. You can rent your house out or your multifamily on all these different websites. But the goal is to supplement your income, get additional income coming in, get some cash flow coming in. You can use that additional cash flow for saving to renovate the house, or for traveling, or for a number of different reasons. A lot of people tend to use that for retirement. All right, so let's go through it really quickly. Credit, right? Your credit is important because in order for you to get approved for a loan, you have to show that you have a good credit history, which means that you can pay your bills on time. So if you don't know how to increase your credit, I'm not a credit score guru, but I can tell you this: pay your bills on time and pay as much on that bill on time as possible. Your credit score will directly impact what your interest rate is. The lower your credit score, the higher your interest rate. The higher your credit score, the lower your interest rate. And your credit score can dictate what loan options you can get, right? So with a 580, I can qualify for an FHA loan, but I may not be able to qualify for a conventional loan, right? And a conventional loan may give me a better interest rate. It just depends. So your credit score is going to dictate all of that. All right. So here's a look at the different credit scores you need for the different loan program. So the FHA loan requires at least a 580 credit score. Remember, we said they can go down as low as 500 if you want to put down 10%, but to put down 3.5%, you're requiring at least a 580. For the conventional loan, typically putting out anywhere from 3 to 5%. Most of the time I see 5%, but you have to have at least a 620 or higher. They sometimes make an exception and go down to 580, sometimes, but most of the time they're looking at a 620 or higher. The VA loan is for active duty or retired military personnel, and that requires a 580 or higher. The VA loan is actually 0% down, so you don't have to bring any money to the table for your down payment. You may still have to pay your closing costs, but no money for the down payment. The USDA loan is if you're buying farmland. So they have a map that dictates where these USDA properties are. You have to have a 640 or higher. And it's basically if you're buying in that one of those USDA areas where the farmland, the agriculture land is, you don't have to pay any money down. So 0% down, just like the VA loan. All right. So we said we're going to get the ugliest house in the nicest neighborhood. Why? Well, because we want our house to appreciate. Appreciate means to grow in value. So if we're in a good neighborhood, then we can assume that as the years go by, our property value is going to increase, right? And if we're the ugliest house in that neighborhood, we know that the house around us is going to make our house look better or appear better, and then the value of our house may increase. Once we make our house pretty, then our house can be valued as much as the houses that are around us. That ugly house may have the lowest purchase price in that neighborhood. It may need some work. It may be so ugly. It may have mold. It may have a flooding basement. Are you willing to do the work it takes in order to renovate that house and get up to the level where you can get the value that you want? Because maybe you couldn't get into that neighborhood if the house was already completely renovated. You're going to customize, you're going to renovate this to your liking, but mainly keep in mind that you're going to eventually rent this property out, whether you're going to rent it out while you're living in it by house hacking, or you're going to rent it out after you move out after a year. That's the way you're building wealth. So you're going to make sure that the renovations that you do and the customizations that you do are going to add value to the home. I'm talking kitchens, I'm talking bathrooms. Kitchens and bathrooms sell homes. If you increase the number of bedrooms, like, oh, it's a 2-bedroom, but maybe it has a den, so I'll go ahead and I'll add an egress window and I'll add a closet. I'm going to turn this into another bedroom. Increase the number of bedrooms, build equity. So you can choose between whether you want a single family house. Single family means 1 unit. A duplex means it's legally zoned as 2 units. Triplex, legally zoned as 3 units, or quad, legally zoned as 4 units. All right. All 4 of these properties you can buy with a residential loan. That means you can put down 3.5% on a 4 unit or a 1 unit, or a 2 unit or a 3 unit. You can put down 3.5%. The second you get to 5 units or more, it's a commercial property. For the most part, you have to put down at least 20%. All right. So we're trying to get these properties for as little money out of our pocket as possible, so that we can go ahead and build wealth. We're trying to use money to make money, but we don't want to use too much of our own money. We want to use other people's money to make money. So reasons you want to buy a single family. Okay, so maybe you just want the privacy, you want the independence. You don't want to reattach you to 3 other different neighbors. Maybe it's a bigger property. You're like, oh, I can live in a nice house. I'll rent out the basement, and that way I'm comfortable, but I get some money coming in. You have full control over your property, right? So lower maintenance because you don't have as many units. Instead of having 4 water heaters to fix, you only have 1. Instead of having 4 HVAC units to fix, you only have 1. So those are some of the pros of living in a single family, and possibly just house hacking that. Or you can do a multifamily. Multifamily, more units typically means you can have more income. And also you diversify your income, right? So if 1 unit stops paying, then you can rely on the other units to keep paying. If 2 units stop paying, then at least you have 2 other more. So you're diversifying your risk, you're spreading your risk over multiple units, versus if you're in a single family, if that 1 single family stops paying, you have 0 income coming in. All right. Purchasing a multifamily allows you to live in 1 of the units and rent out the other units. So if you're in a quadruplex, you can live in 1 unit and rent out the other 3 units. And then you have economies of scale. So basically, the more properties you have, the more you're able to manage all of the expenses of the property, all of the utilities, because you start to create systems. Once you create systems, you have economies of scale. So the idea of fixing 1 toilet is not that big of a deal, because you have rental income coming from all these different sources. All right, so choosing between a multifamily and a single family is going to depend on your personal preference. What are your investment goals? Things to financially consider. Multifamilies are generally more expensive. And then time and management. You may just want to do a single family home because you don't have time to manage 3 other units. Just the basement is enough. So you have to figure out what your goals are, what your short-term and your long-term goals are, and then what type of property would meet those goals. All right, so now we're going to talk about this 203K renovation loan. So now you know what type of property you want. So this property needs work. The roof is falling down. The bathroom is old and ugly. So you're going to use this renovation loan. You know it's a slightly higher interest rate, but where else are you going to get the $30,000 to do this renovation? Let me get this FHA 203K renovation loan. I'm still only putting down 3.5%, but now I'm putting down 3.5% of the cost of the house and the renovation. So the house cost me $170 and the renovation cost me $30,000. Then I'm putting down the 3.5% on the full $200,000. I qualify for the FHA 203K the same way that I qualify for a regular FHA loan. If my credit score is higher and I want to do a conventional loan, if I'm going to live in a property, I can do a conventional home style loan, which is similar to the FHA 203K renovation loan. So the standard 203K is great for extensive renovations, things that are big. If you're doing a room addition, if you're doing a major remodel, you're doing the standard 203K. So you can borrow more money, but it requires more paperwork. The limited 203K is for small cosmetic repairs, minor repairs, just updating things, like maybe you want to change out all the carpet to new flooring, or do a roof repair, or you just want to do some updates. It's a short application process, but you borrow less money. To be eligible, you qualify for a 203K loan, you have to qualify for a regular FHA loan. So they're looking at your credit, they're looking at your income, they're looking at your assets, they're looking at your debt to income ratio. So how much debt do you have in comparison to how much income you bring in? And they're looking at that in order to determine if you qualify. And for all FHA loans, this must be your primary residence. So you can't use it to buy an investment property. Even though we may try to rent out a portion of our property, we have to live in that property at least 1 year. So even though it's a 4-unit, you have to live in at least one of the unit. Even if though it's a single family, you got to live in at least one of the bedrooms. You can rent out the other bedrooms, you can rent out the basement, you can rent out the other units, but you need to live in that property. That's your primary residence. It needs to be your primary residence on your tax return. All right, let me tell you a little bit about the loan process. So first of all, you get pre-qualified. So you get your FHA letter and you look at the property that you want. You say like, oh, this needs some work. So let me get pre-qualification letter for the 203K loan, right? So that means my lender is looking at the cost of the property and how much the renovations are. Or he's just kind of estimating like, okay, this property needs work. I think that, you know, we can lend on this for renovation. Identify the property, and then you're going to get estimates of how much it's going to cost to fix that property up. You have to make sure you use a licensed contractor. FHA is not going to give money to a handyman. They're not going to give money to you. If you say like, oh, I'm going to fix it up myself. Nope. You have to use a licensed contractor. You're going to get an appraisal. Your appraisal is for 2 things. So it's going to be a little bit more expensive than a regular appraisal. It's going to determine what the value of your property is now and what the value of the property will be after the renovation. So you're definitely going to make sure you get that appraisal. It's going to be required by your lender. And then once they approve your loan, you finally close in the house, that's when they'll start to disperse funds. In order for them to disperse funds, they want to make sure that the work is done first. So they're actually reimbursing the funds. So your licensed contractor, that has to be approved by them, they have to be willing to start the renovation without any money. So start the renovation with their own money. Once they've done the work, an inspector has come out to take a look at the work that they've done, or a HUD consultant comes out to take a look at the work that they've done, then they'll get reimbursed for that phase of the project. So that's what we call the draw process. So there's a lot of contractors who don't want to do that because they don't want to start work if they don't think they're going to get paid. So you definitely want to work with contractors who have worked with the 203K loan before. After you've done all your draws and you finish the whole project, so you do a little bit here, you get it inspected, they get reimbursed, do a little bit, get re-inspected, get reimbursed. When you do your final one, they do a final inspection, and then they submit the final draw. Now you have the loan for the entire amount, for the cost of the repairs and also the cost of purchasing the house. And you're going to pay that back like normal. Over 30 years, you're going to pay it back. It's going to be a 1 monthly payment, and it's going to include your principal, interest, taxes, and your mortgage insurance, and any type of insurance premiums, because you pay insurance premiums whenever you are buying a house with less than 20% of a down payment. So FHA 203K loan could be a good option. Keep in mind that if you have an FHA loan in your house right now and you think it needs some work, you could refinance into a 203K loan. So say like, oh, I'm already living in a house. I have an FHA loan. I know I can't use too many FHA loans at the same time. So I can try to refinance this house and they'll give me money to do the renovation for this house. Because how else would I get that money? So think about that. That's an option as well. All right. Most important part in this whole thing is house hacking. This is the wealth builder. Most people just spend money on their housing without any concern for how can they reduce their living expenses. Housing is probably the number 1 expense, right? You have eating, you have transportation, but you got to have somewhere to live. So if you're going to reduce that one expense of housing, how do you do that? You house hack, which means that you're living in the property, but you're allowing another portion of that property to generate income. So by house hacking, you can build wealth in real estate. By house hacking, you can reduce your living expenses, right? So instead of it costing me $3,000 to live in this house, it only costs me $2,000 because I'm renting out a room for $1,000. So instead of it costing me $1,500, it's only going to cost me $700 because I'm renting out 2 rooms. In addition, you can use that additional money in order to pay down the mortgage, right? So maybe you can afford the rent by yourself. I mean, you can because you qualify for it, right? So at first, maybe you're saving because like, well, I need to save for up an emergency fund for a rainy day, and eventually you're just like, no, I'm actually good. My emergency fund is pretty strong. It's at least 6 months, and now maybe I want to pay my mortgage down. Like I want to pay my mortgage down early so that I can like not have to pay these bills. So maybe I'll rent out a portion of my house and then use that money to pay my mortgage down. There's tax advantages to it. So once you're using a house as a rental property, even though you live there, there's a lot more that you can write off for your house, such as your mortgage interest, your property taxes, insurance, any repairs you do to your house. You can write those things down. A regular homeowner can't write off repairs to the house, but when you're renting that house out, you can write off those repairs. And then house hacking just allows you to learn about being a real estate investor. Why? Because you get firsthand experience of being a landlord and property manager. You're managing tenants, you're managing maintenance requests, you're making sure they pay their bills, you're managing your budget for repairs, for everything. So you're getting that learning experience, and you already were going to live in a house. So definitely make sure you're looking for properties that can be house hacked. Once again, so I'm Tiana, I'm a realtor and an investor. So I have a lot of my knowledge because I invest in real estate, but I also help other people purchase real estate as well, and I help them sell their properties as well. If you're looking to buy in Washington, D.C. or in Maryland, definitely contact me. If you're looking to just learn about real estate, I also have hours that I will help people learn about real estate investing. I have lots of content on my website, and I have another website I can send you guys that has tons of content just like this, so that you guys can learn about real estate investing. So definitely feel free to reach out if you have any questions. Let me know.